What causes crime? Well, according to our Minister of National Security here in Trinidad and Tobago, that would be violent TV shows and pornography, etc. Now, here's the thing. I don't necessarily think that's wrong, because if you're talking about the causes of crime, I don't think there's any one clear reason, one clear issue that causes crime. Like you could see this one and this one to get together, come together, and every time they come together, you get the two that is called crime. I don't think it's necessarily something so simple. I think crime in terms of the causes would be something a lot more complex than that, with many causes, some being more significant, some being less significant, but many causes influencing and pushing towards an increase in crime in a country, in a society. Now, I think though that the cause that you focus on should be pertinent to your arena of life, to your arena that you have influence over. So I'm a parent now. So when I'm thinking about crime in terms of parenting, I'll be looking at the parental causes of crime, that missing father in the home, etc., etc. But if you're a police officer, or if you are the Minister of National Security, someone in charge of the police officers, not in charge as in directing them like that, but directing policy, making sure that they have the right amount of provisions, I think also your focus should be more on the National Security, Ministry of National Security pertinent areas that cause crime. And are those areas really violent TV shows? We're going to get into that and look again at some of the crime in Trinidad and Tobago and some of the causes and nature of the crime situation we have here. If you're interested in this kind of content, make sure you hit that like button at the end of the video, or even now. If you have something to say, if you have a comment to make on this topic, be sure to drop that comment. All of the comments, all of the likes, they really do help the videos be pushed more. They assist with the algorithm pushing the videos more. So if you'd like to see this content, if you think this is the stuff that Trinidad and Tobago should be hearing more about, or the world should be hearing more about, well, you can't help by dropping that comment, leaving a like, share it to someone who might like this kind of content, pull it up in your WhatsApp and say, hey, listen to this stuff, some good stuff. And if you are not yet subscribed, make sure you are subscribed. We have new videos dropping pretty frequently. All right, Hines. Porn, violent shows play a role in crime. National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines says the jury is still out on whether poverty or unemployment affects the crime rate. But he feels like violent movies and pornography are partly to blame. Hines was speaking at a forum hosted by the Confederation of Regional Business Chambers and the Trade and Development Unit at the University of the West Indies campus on Friday night. He was responding to economist Dr. Roger Hossain, who had delivered a presentation at the forum earlier. Increasing unemployment. During his presentation, Hossain said there had been an increase in unemployment, but that this was not reflected in the labor force participation rate. We have to understand what are the factors that are causing people to drop out of the labor force. Why it is 70,000 people lost their jobs and the unemployment level only moved back from about 27,000 to 32,000. That's 27 to 32. That's 5,000. And he's saying the record shows 70,000 people lost their job. So how come unemployment only jumped by 5,000? And only 3,400 people aged out of the labor force. So, okay, some people would have aged out. Okay, the unemployment jumped by 5,000. The people who aged out were 3,400. That's 8,400. Where did the rest of these people go? What are they doing? Are they joining gangs? He asked. Hossain questioned whether there was a link between this and the murder toll. So, you understand what he's doing there? He's doing the process of elimination. So, we have a record. We have records, statistics showing 70,000 people left the labor force. When we're trying to find out where all of them went, though, we're looking and only 5,000 actually shows that they increased in the unemployment side. So 5,000 people are still looking for employment, they are unemployed. 3,400 aged out of the labor force. That's 8,400. Let's say 9,000. Let's say even 10,000 with some mistakes there. That still leaves 60,000 people that left the labor force that are unaccounted for. And Dr. Hossain is asking, is this where we are seeing that link now with gangs? And I think that's a good question, because obviously, if you look at the Trinidad and Tobago situation, over the last 5 years, I think the gangs in Trinidad and Tobago have seen a boost in their membership. I think the gangs in Trinidad and Tobago are having bumper years for membership increase. And is it that part of this 60,000 unaccounted for people that left the labor force some of the numbers that are increasing the gangs? Or is it what was the number? 30,000 during the pandemic with online schooling, the children that were unaccounted for that fell out of the system. Was it 30? Let's pull up that article. Educational scandal. After an entire school term of the Ministry of Education making as if all is well with the switch to online schooling, the truth of its reality is finally beginning to emerge. We're going down to find the number that they released at this week's meeting of Parliament's Joint Select Committee on Social Services and Public Administration. The public learned that 39,861 primary school pupils and another 6,909 who attend secondary school have never logged on to the online learning platform. And I wonder, of those 30,000 plus 6,000, that's over 40,000, going up to 50,000 children who never logged into online schooling, how many of them logged into the local gang? And if you combine those numbers, the 40,000 plus students who disappeared during online schooling and the 60,000 plus workers who fell off of the employment market, who fell out of the work sphere, if you combine those numbers, you get something like 100,000 people. That is a lot of people in Trinidad and Tobago, where our population is only 1.3, 1.4 million people. That's a lot of people. And 100,000 people are basically unaccounted for in the official system, at least over the last 3 years or so. And does that have that direct link possibly to crime? All right. Hossain questioned whether there was a link between this and the murder toll. Responding to Hossain's comments, Hines expressed doubt about crime being linked to poverty and unemployment. The jury for me is out on that. I know many people who cannot be characterized as unemployed or poor who find themselves engaged in serious criminal activity. People who are well off, of which those things cannot be said, he said. And I agree with that bit. I think he's right. There are many very wealthy people. There are many people who are employed who do engage in criminal activity. And I agree. Poverty does not cause crime. I regularly point this out. Poverty does not cause crime. Poor people are not more criminally minded than rich people. When you are poor, it doesn't make you immoral. A criminal is someone, generally speaking, who is immoral, and being poor doesn't decrease your morality. In fact, when you look around in the world, you might see a kind of reverse of that, really and truly. But I think he's answering something that wasn't really questioned, because in the statement that Dr. Hossain said there, he wasn't directly necessarily linking unemployment and poverty to crime. He was linking a statistical reality that we have and showing that may answer some of the gaping questions we have, some of the mysteries we have about criminality in Trinidad and Tobago. So you're asking, where do the gangs get their people from? Well, he's highlighting a problem that might show an answer to that. So it's not saying necessarily that unemployment caused crime here, but it's saying that, okay, there are 60,000 unemployed people in Trinidad and Tobago that cannot be accounted for. Don't you think, if we were looking at causes of crime in this country, that may be an important factor to put in? You see, it's not that unemployed people are criminals, but generally speaking, if you're looking at the especially lower level criminality, if you're looking to make a life of crime, you can't have a life of something else. If you want crime to be your livelihood, if you want crime to be your job, you can't really be holding down another permanent job. If you have crime as your permanent job, to have another permanent job would be a bit more more difficult. So if you're looking for some people who are full-time criminals, chances are you may look under the full-time unemployed people to find that. It's not saying that unemployment means you're a criminal, but it's answering some of those questions. Obscenities in movies. Offering his own theory as to the root causes of crime, Hines said he believed violent TV content plays a role. One thing I can tell you is that our youngsters today, our children, they are exposed to a tremendous amount of violence on an ongoing basis, a daily diet of serious violence. He referred to graphic violence and obscenities in movies and also placed some of the blame on pornography. I heard the Archbishop of Port of Spain yesterday. He went on to say that he did research and TNT was third in the world in terms of consuming pornography, and our children have access to that on a daily basis. Okay, I agree. Consuming a large amount of pornography, I don't think that's healthy for the human mind, especially for developing minds. I agree with that. The thing is though, violent content, the research has been done to some extent, and he's right, the jury is kind of out on the violent content side, where it's not necessarily proven that seeing and consuming violent content makes someone violent. There hasn't been concrete proof of that, so no. What there has been some proof of is desensitization, where if you consume a lot of very graphic violent content, the chances are you may be a bit more desensitized, where you look at violence and it doesn't trigger the same reactions in your mind. And okay, there's the desensitization realm. And also beyond that, what has been found, it's not necessarily that playing violent games, watching violent content makes children violent, but the more violent children who are already violent from other causes tend to gravitate more towards the violent content. And the thing is though, Mr. Hines is the Minister of National Security. So as much as I might agree, I will agree that there are other varying factors that do influence crime. When he's talking about, okay, it's not poverty causes crime, and that might be true, I think what he should be most focused on is the reverse of that, where I regularly see, if you take in enough of my content, the statistics, the studies, you look at history, it generally points that it's not poverty causes crime, but crime causes poverty. And if that is the case, crime causes poverty, then someone like Mr. Hines, where he should be focused is the crime. You see, all right, yes, there are causes of crime. I agree. There are many base causes of crime. But that's not exactly the area of national security. The area of national security isn't as focused on the preventative measures. And I think there shouldn't be. I don't think national security should be the preventative criminal focused network. It should be inside there. No, leave. We have a ministry of social planning. We have that includes the family. We have ministries that involve youth and gender development and education. Those are the ministries that should be involved in some of those base and foundation causes of crime. The Ministry of National Security. It's like we have a plant. We have a criminal plant that has been planted in Trinidad and Tobago, and it's now bearing fruit. In the Ministry of National Security, your job is not to go back down necessarily towards the root and study the root of this crime. And no. The main focus of the Ministry of National Security, is securing the nation, meaning the things that endanger the nation. Speaking in this case, the fruit of this criminal tree, you are to ensure that the nation isn't affected by this. So your job is to make sure that none of these criminal fruits that are coming from the criminal tree ends up affecting the country. You're there to catch all the fruits before they fall on the ground and poison the country. So your job is to stop the criminality that is occurring. And that's what I think. When I listen to the Ministry of National Security, I listen to the Commissioner of Police, I listen to the other police officers, and they regularly talk about the social issues, and I agree they are social issues, but that's not really your main focus. Yes, I understand the social issues make your job harder. Yes, so speak to the areas in society that are involved in that. Yes, but your job isn't being the father of the nation. No, Mr. Officer, that's not your job. Your job is to make sure when criminality occurs, you nip it in the bud. And I think a Minister of National Security should be more aimed on that side. Because when you're seeing the poverty and the unemployment side increase in the country, all right, you might say that it's not causing crime. But I'll say, I think crime is causing that. Think about this. If you live in Sealots or Beetham or Laventille, and I'm calling these names not to insult those communities, but if you are a Trinidadian, you very well know the reputation that many of these communities have. And if you are in a position of poverty, as some of those communities may be, there's more poverty in some of those communities. You are in that position. What are you looking for? Maybe you want to start a job. You have some entrepreneurial kind of thinking. That's going to bring you out of poverty. You want to open a business. Well, can you open a business in Sealots, Laventille, or Beetham? Would you get people from outside of the neighborhood to come in there and patronize your business? No. And why wouldn't you get those people to do that? Not because your business idea sucks, not because your business idea is bust, no, but because there's criminality in your neighborhood. Too much criminality where people aren't going to come. They aren't going to come here and risk their life and limb to try and give you the money required to pull yourself out of poverty. So that's on the entrepreneurial end. Sorry, that can't work. But okay, maybe you aren't in that entrepreneurial mindset. You want to get a good job. You want to study, get educated, find a good job. Okay, well, when you go out into the job market and they ask you for your address, this has been a regular problem that they talk about in Trinidad and Tobago quite frequently. And you put Beetham, Sealots, or Laventille, and the employer sees it, and he sees someone with the very same qualifications without that address. Chances are they may choose the other person. And why would they choose the other person? Do they not like the spelling of Laventille? Does that spelling inveigle negative thoughts in employers? No, it's not the spelling, it's not the lettering. People aren't allergic to L, V's, N's, T's, and L's. No. The problem is the criminal reputation of those communities. So as an employer, you're looking and you're thinking, the chances are I could employ someone from this community, and the chances of some kind of negative criminal activity coming closer to my business place is higher, so I don't want anyone from there. So again, the criminal activity takes away from the entrepreneurial opportunities. It takes away from the finding a job opportunities. If you're looking for outside investment, so someone from the outside could come and invest, open a company inside of Sealots, open a business inside of Laventille or Beetham. Who is going to do that? Who is going to invest their resources to go in there and do work and then stand the chance of losing it? I was speaking to a councillor for a region recently, and he was lamenting about some sending contractors to do work in the region, and the men in the region are robbing the contractors. The contractors are doing work to help the very same people living in these regions, and they are robbing them. The criminality, the crime causes the poverty. That's what happens. Crime causes poverty. And if you are a minister of national security, you aren't here to lament about the other causes of crime, in my opinion. When we're seeing poverty increasing and unemployment increasing, and the reality is, although crime may be causing that, there's a feedback loop here. So crime causes unemployment and unemployment and poverty makes it easier to facilitate crime. So it's a cycle. And if you are a minister of national security, I am not interested in you necessarily tackling the poverty and unemployment side. You are the minister of national security. Your aim is to stop the criminality. So if you want to make the people in Beetham, Laventille, and Sealots wealthier, the aim is not social programs. The aim is to get enough police doing their job correctly in those communities to rid them of the criminal activity. And if you rid them of the criminal activity, they will bring themselves out of poverty. They will make jobs for themselves. And when you're looking at it from a Ministry of National Security point of view, I think that's a policy statement. And listen to this. Uptick in larceny of motor vehicles, says Alexander. Police have noted an increase in reports of larceny of motor vehicles, as well as an upsurge in violence associated with this type of robbery, which in recent times has led to murder. This is believed to be the motive behind the killing of Michael Pear, 36, on Wednesday night in Malabar. The TTPS, I know, will be taking this seriously and will be enacting various roadblock operations to find persons who have the intent of committing these acts of violence. But even as I say this, I am calling on the citizens to work with us. We are a problem unto ourselves. As soon as people see roadblocks, they are quick to go on messaging chats to let others know. They may think they are trying to prevent their friends an inconvenience, but criminal elements are also on these chats. So now you have paved the way for these persons to circumvent the actions of the police, which would have been put in place to get these individuals off the streets. Citizens are quick to say the police this and the police that, but they don't trust themselves. This is why it's so difficult to maintain law and order in this country, because if you were the one who got robbed, you wouldn't be putting the police operations on a chat so that the criminals could evade it, would you? Here's the problem, and I think when police, especially these kind of officers, they are being dishonest. I believe they are being dishonest because they know why citizens do things like this. If I message someone about the presence of a police, it's not because I want to avoid them inconvenience. I want to avoid them $1,500 being paid for some random nonsense. So when the Minister of National Security is talking about porn and violence in TV shows, what he should be focused on is the policy of the police in Trinidad and Tobago, the policy that causes Trinis to have no interest in working along with the police. Trinis don't want to work along with the police. Let's look at this. The roadblock that Mr. Alexander is talking about here. This roadblock exercise. If you see a roadblock in Trinidad and Tobago and 1,000 people are stopped in that roadblock for the day, how many of them do you think would be charged with actions that would have been facilitating or directly being involved in violent crime in Trinidad? 2 out of 1,000, 2. The rest of them, the boast that they always boast, the laundry list when you look at it, would be someone with smooth tires, someone with indicator not working, someone with a cracked windshield, someone whose inspection was out of date. And I could tell you, if I'm thinking about this as a trainee, and in order for me to find one criminal on the street, I have to put 999 Trinis at risk of paying thousands of dollars for random sporadic nonsense that does not make sense in bettering the country. Then which do you think I would choose? The 999 regular Trinis, so they all risk them all paying that money to catch the one maybe criminal, or not? I would warn them, let the 999 escape. Okay, the one criminal also escapes, but the 999 do also. And here's the reality. Israel court system clogged cases with public servants dragging on for 15 years. There are over 300 inquests into the killing of citizens by police officers, several of whom are charged and or on suspension with pay, and these cases are clogging the court system, says senior counsel Israel Khan. They're talking about the court system here, where when police do wrong, they're clogged in the court system, they are paid to do it. Listen, if you look at this system here, the one person that's trapped in the 1,000 people roadblock, that one man that's caught, that's the criminal. He's going to spend 15 years in and out of the court system, very likely getting bail, back out doing the same crime by the next day. So, again, we're looking at the cost of this. As a regular trainee, I see a roadblock. It's going to cost me, looking at it from, I love my country, looking at it from that way. 999 regular trainees are stressed with the likelihood of paying thousands of dollars they don't really have to a government that spends the money badly. And the one criminal that might be caught would be out by next week to do the same actions again. The incentive structure in that, does that incentive structure lean towards the trainees allowing the roadblocks to go unimpeded, or does it lean towards the trainees letting their fellow trainees know, listen, nah, get away from that? And if you are the Minister of National Security in charge of policy overarching all of this law enforcement, shouldn't your interest be not in the violent TV shows and pornography and all of that, but in the policies of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service that lead to them being untrusted by the general public? And then we see the actions that cause the criminality to increase, and the criminality increasing causes the poverty to increase, and that also causes the unemployment to increase. So Should you be on this end focusing on poverty and unemployment and movies and TV shows and that? Or should you be on this end focusing on stopping the crime and not harassing the regular citizens for trivial nonsense? But these are my thoughts. Tell me what your thoughts are. Tell me what you think. Drop a comment. Tell me what you think. That's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained, and I will see you in the next video.